What's up, everybody? It's Kevin and Sergey of the Tabletop Warlords. Welcome you back to the channel again.
A lot of people have been asking us to start doing lore videos specifically about Beyond the Gates of Antares, and that is a subject that me and Kevin can talk your ear off about for pretty much an indefinite period of time. So that is what we're going to do.
Now, our lore videos are going to be a lot more conversational, which is what me and Sergey just agreed we wanted to do. It's just so much better to do it this way and kind of have a friendly conversation about our favorite games. And when we're talking about Antares, probably the best and most sensible place to start is the thing that ties the entire world together, which is Antares itself.
Antares itself, it appears to be a gigantic red giant star. However, when you get closer, you start to realize that it's actually a not necessarily man-made, some creature-made giant machine that is essentially a humongous trans-dimensional portal hub.
I love science fiction. That sentence alone is amazing. That's why I love Antares too. It's so great.
That's a solid sentence.
Well, it's like if anybody who's never played Gates of Antares, Rick Priestley, the guy who designed it, had been a huge portion or a huge help to the teams that created Warhammer 40K and those games. And so Antares is much more anchored in hard science fiction. And so that right there, this is great. Now, like Sergey said, it's a hub world. And so it looks like a star, many hundred times larger than our own, but it is basically a koosh ball that is like literally bristling with trans-dimensional portals that are attached to tunnels that attach to like a weird null field in the center of Antares that then like have connections to like all these different planets all over this universe, other universes, other galaxies, anywhere in between.
Each of these galaxies or planets or star systems that are attached to Antares are considered part of Antares space, and it makes up a strange tapestry of different galaxies that are extremely far away in real space, but very close together due to their connectivity to Antares.
Now, these gates, the gates of Antares, see what I did there, Sergey? See what I did there?
It was not great, but okay.
These have existed, like the Antares Nexus has existed way longer than human beings, our planet Earth, and even the sun that we orbit. But basically, at some point, humans found that gate. Now, every gate that is attached to the Antares Nexus has what is called a gate horizon within its home system. And basically, it's the location of where the gate is physically. Now, that's going to be further out than all of the orbiting planets and anything like that. Pluto, if you're thinking about our solar system. Yeah. But it occupies a space that is in line with wherever Antares is in the sky. So if you can see Antares, the gate's going to be in the exact same line at a set distance from the sun, further out than its planetary bodies.
Now, in order to actually access a gate, you have to have what's known as a gate key, which is essentially a type of resonance pattern. And the only way to really figure this out for a culture that has not yet already traveled to Antares is to hear the resonance that is coming off of the Antares gate itself and figure it out through whichever scientific process your culture is going to use.
All I can imagine is like someone on like the comms and it's like, wait a second, I'm getting something. It's like,
that's an apt example.
Now, when I was first figuring out what Antares was all about and reading this, I couldn't help but imagine the sweet DS9 portal that appears next to the station. And it might visually look like that, but the gates work very different. Once you have that key signal that Sergey's talking about and you've broadcast it, the gate kind of just like accepts you into its like null space and you get drawn through that tunnel to the Antares Nexus. Now, it's important to note, like I said, it's not like Star Trek. Like you don't fly your ship around in the tunnel. You don't use your own engines, anything like that. It basically creates a bubble of reality around you and then launches you down this trans-dimensional gate, kind of like Hyperloop style, to the Antares Nexus. Now, once you get there, you're in the center of Antares, and then a corresponding tunnel shoots you out to the gate's exit or entrance, depending on your orientation, I guess. And that is in the photosphere, the outermost like giant rolling plasma layer of Antares.
Now, traveling through the gate is also a little bit different than in other sci-fi universes because it's very varied.
Hmm.
Traveling from one gate to the center of Antares might take a day, whereas traveling from another gate to the center of Antares might take like a year or a couple
Hmm.
months. There are some gates that even just kind of leave you traveling indefinitely, or I guess not indefinitely, indefinitely to our human knowledge. It might eventually lead
Yes.
out, but it's long enough that you're all dead on the inside when you come out of the gate. Um,
No bueno.
yeah, it's not. It's very dangerous, which is why you always want to bring your space probes. Always space probe before you enter an Antares gate. That's Sergey's patented gate traveling advice.
Once this time is complete, however long it's taken you, and you are in this photosphere. Now, I think they just use the word photosphere because it like is like comparable, but
Hmm.
it's a like giant sea of plasma,
Hmm.
roiling plasma that's like all churned up by these weird tunnel like gateway tunnel things. And so it's dangerous. And so even like the Concorde or the Isorian, which are like the most advanced in the current age, their shielding technology only allows their ship to exist in that photosphere depending on where they're at. Like for a set amount of time your ship is just going to get eaten up. Now the gates themselves also have we talked about the gate horizon. They actually have an Antares horizon too, and that refers to how deep they are in that photosphere. So sometimes you might pop out like right at the bottom and it's super dangerous because it's way more insane. Sometimes you pop out towards the top and it's a little easier. And so travel in real space kind of follows that. If you're towards the top, you're fine. Now, you would say, can I just leave the photosphere at all?
And just travel, just loop to loop around in relative safety. Well, you can't.
Nope.
Nope, because
Antares thought of that.
yep, entire Rick Priestley thought of that. There is a separate sun that kind of orbits Antares. Well, it looks like a
Hmm.
sun. It's probably also a machine, but it's
Hmm.
called Obreg. And what Obreg does is kind of protect. It's kind of like the custodian of the gate. If you
Hmm.
get too high up, it's gonna destroy you. If you cause a kerfuffle, like start a firefight or something crazy
Hmm.
on the surface of Antares, it's also going to destroy you.
Yeah, everything that's been set up basically forces the ships to almost operate like they are sailing on an ocean of fire, sort of
Exactly.
like half submergible because you can dive into it. But
Hmm.
they got really naval with it, and I think that's hilarious. So I like it.
Yeah,
It's really cool. A
it's
really
super
cool
cool.
science fiction thing.
It's sailing on the seas of the cosmos.
The gateways, they're still far apart. So even though Antares has like millions of gateways, it is so huge that you're still having to travel some distance across that dangerous photosphere to
Hmm.
get to the next gate. Now, this orientation of these gates and the way that it's organized is very interesting because that's kind of how the empires and whatnot that exist using the entire nexus kind of build their territory. They do it because the gates are clustered together, but that does not mean that the planets that make up their empire are
Hmm.
actually anywhere close to each other because your location in Antares bears no anything on the location in real space. So if I go from Earth and it's like Alpha Centauri, it might be on the other side of Antares, not a relative distance equal to real space. So it's kind of interesting in that way.
Exactly. So like if you're creating an Antaran empire or looking at a map of Antares, you'll see something like a Concord cluster of gates, and that's kind
You'll
of their
see
territory.
something like this.
Something
I
like
had it
that.
open. So even
Exactly.
even though it's not representing physical territory like a normal
Hmm.
map would be, it's mapping out who basically
Yeah.
controls those
It's
gates.
representing practical territory as opposed to physical
Hmm.
territory.
Now, your actual position relating to Antares space and real space isn't the only weird thing, because no matter where you are, if you are in Antaran space on a system that is connected to the Antaran nexus, when you look up in the night sky, Antares, the star, what you thought before, is in the exact same position at the exact same relative distance as like all of the other systems attached to the it's like the Antaran nexus, which is really weird because it it basically is the only thing that matches up in the night sky. Uh, a lot of the different gates are actually in different galaxies, like we said before. They are proposed to be in different universes. And then in some instances, they've even figured out that the gates actually exist in different points of time.
Mhm.
So, depending on whatever gate you're choosing, your destination is kind of wild. It can be, literally to the backyard, like the next system over, or it could be to another system in a different universe 3 trillion years in the past. It
Mhm.
gets weird quick.
Exactly. Yeah, it gets really wonky, and it also opens up, from a non-lore perspective, like for people actually playing the game, it's awesome because there's literally endless
Hmm.
possibilities for cool scenarios and cool worlds for you to build,
Absolutely. Hmm.
and all that stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. Now, all of these different portals and gates to the Nexus stay relatively stationary for pretty long periods of time. However, there are massive events known in Antares as a collapse.
These collapses are heralded by basically individual gates in the Nexus just out of nowhere. I'm not quite sure how long it takes, but they just
Just whoop.
descend back into the Nexus, which makes them inaccessible from the photosphere. And from the position of like the starting system, that means that they're cut off from the Nexus and isolated in real space. And there's you don't know how long that's going to be.
These collapses are actually how the people of Antares track the different ages in their history. We're currently in the seventh age, meaning we're coming off of the seventh time that the gates have collapsed.
Now, before we get into those collapses in greater detail and kind of go through the different ages that exist between them, we're going to end the video on our Antares Nexus. We hope that you found this incredibly informative, but if there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We would be more than happy to answer them. And we really appreciate the engagement with the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives. And on that note of that battle, like the video if you liked it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so.
If you want to support our channel even further, please join our Patreon campaign. It's the absolute lifeblood of our channel. And on that Patreon campaign, you'll find access to our awesome development vlog where we take you behind the scenes and talk about all the cool nerdy stuff that we're working on to help this channel grow.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to all the other lore videos we have in the future. As always, we will see you on the tabletop.